Hello and welcome to this episode of the Parents in PR podcast hosted by PRCA. I'm Alex Stevens, founder of Parents in PR and business director at Reuben Sinclair, and today I'm joined by Carolina Gasparoli. Carolina is vice president at Fin Partners and has over 12 years of experience in public affairs, both in the UK and EU, strategic communications, and stakeholder and media engagement. She has worked in agencies as well as in-house across various sectors. Before moving to the UK from Italy, she worked in academia and has a PhD in political philosophy. Carolina is also a mentor at I Have a Voice, which is a social enterprise that empowers people to engage with politics through education, and she has a 4-year-old daughter and lives in London. Carolina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having this brilliant initiative.
That's okay, thank you. So having worked in this industry for over a decade, you well know that public affairs can be high pressured and there can be lots of long hours involved, and obviously raising children is also no small task. And so much so that we often hear of people kind of burning out and potentially even leaving the industry when they become parents because of this. I was curious to understand, have you put in place any kind of successful strategies to try and maintain that balance and kind of prevent burnout while sort of working and raising your daughter at the same time?
Well, yes and no. I don't have a routine or anything similar I tend to stick to. But during my career break, I was fortunate enough to do some coaching, and we went through a really thorough process to examine my strengths and how I can, best use them, and how to stay at your best on a daily basis. So what are the sort of things that you should be mindful of, maybe over the week or over the month, rather than having a daily routine. And there are, two or three basic things I try to do every month. And as I said, it's not strict routine. And then I tend to be quite flexible. And if I can't do something one day, I'll make sure I'll do it the day after, or anyway during the week. So one thing that it's really important for me is just to have some time for myself, and for having maybe some time with a friend, or to go to an event, which is also a work-related event, or having that's my sort of goal, to have at least one interesting conversation a month with somebody I don't know, or I wanted to reconnect to, and that really keeps me energized, as curiosity is one of my strengths, so I try to fit that this way. The other thing is I try to exercise as much as I can, do something that is quite relaxing for me. And the other important thing is I plan as much as possible. So I know it sounds really sad, but sometimes I have to sit down with my husband and we go through our diary and just really plan in advance what needs to be done for that week or for that month. Yeah. And as I said, it doesn't sound very romantic, but it takes much of the anxiety and the stress out, for me at least. So I know exactly what's going to happen. For example, I don't enjoy cooking particularly, so knowing exactly what I'm going to eat that night is a huge relief for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
making your life
small adjustments. Yeah, making life.
Yeah.
And then, to be honest, having one child is manageable. I frankly don't know how people with 2 children do it, especially without a family around. But yeah, one is still manageable.
I think it's so important what you said there about kind of taking time for yourself as well. I think that's something that quite often gets overlooked, particularly in those early years, because you're so busy being everything to another person that you can sort of forget to take the time for yourself. But I can totally see how that really helps in preventing that burnout. That's a great point. And you mentioned there as well about taking a career break, which you did a couple of years ago, I believe. And it's a really brave thing to do with a young daughter. And I was wondering how you found that break, what that sort of gave you, and how you found re-entering the industry as well after taking time off.
Yeah, I think for me it was probably the best year of my life in some ways, because I had the luxury to take some time to reassess my priorities, really think about what I wanted to do. I mentioned the coaching I did. Towards the end of it, I also did, I got a certificate with Cambridge University, and I did a course on sustainability because I felt I needed, I wanted to add some ability, capability to my skill set, and it was really helpful. And I realized that, for example, because of my previous, because I was my role, and it wasn't directly public affairs, but also because COVID and maternity leave, I neglected my network quite a lot. So I spent loads of time reconnecting with people, making sure, I knew exactly what other people were doing and having those interesting conversations that I mentioned before. And for me, it was a very productive year. And as I said, I appreciate not everybody is in the position to do it. But I would say if you can, just do it. I really listened. And to be honest, it wasn't really a planned thing. I was away on holiday, and I just realized I just had enough. And I sat down and I said to my husband, I don't think I can carry on like this. And he said, I don't think you should. I think you can take some time off. You also changed career already, so you've been through a lot. And I'm here to support you if you need to. And I took 2 days to really think about it, and then I made a decision, and it was probably the best decision of my life.
That's amazing. And it's so important sometimes. We do get sort of caught up in the rat race, don't we? And it's very rare that you get a chance to kind of step back and really think about what's right for you and what you want to do next. How did you then sort of go on to re-enter the industry? Was that a kind of a big shift again, having had that time out? Did you find it an easy transition back in, or what was it like?
No, I wouldn't say easy in the sense that I had loads of meetings and loads of I applied for loads of jobs and I didn't get anything. I think I was trying to be more selective as well, so I didn't go for everything that was out there, because otherwise I would have, just the risk that you waste the time that you're actually taking off. And then, I mean, this is just the importance of having a broad network. I just spoke to a mum at my daughter's nursery, and then she introduced me to somebody who introduced me to my current boss.
Oh, wow.
So it was really, personal network.
Mhm.
So yeah, sometimes things happen this way, and
It's meant
yeah,
to
yeah, it's not always this is not the only way, but it worked for me, and
Yeah,
yeah, so
that's
here I
good.
am.
Yeah. And we spoke a little bit earlier about that kind of balancing act and sort of, it's really important to take time for yourself, but ultimately you do have a job to do and a parenting role to do. And there's often this real internal pressure, I think, to try and excel in both roles and to be the best at your job, but also the best mum you can be. And there's so much guilt around that sometimes. How do you personally deal with that expectation, and how do you kind of manage those sort of standards for yourself?
Um, well, when I'm at work, I try to be as present as possible, and probably because I need that space. I'm that kind of person. I'm quite good at that. So, and I know that my daughter is safe. She's in a place she likes.
Mm.
So for me, it's a massive reassurance. So we never had major problems with her. So I know that she's safe. I know she's happy. So that gives me the mental space to really be at work and without thinking about how she's doing, etc. I know that my husband is, potentially able to jump in. So because we plan in advance, we kind of know that. And then it's just the two of us. We don't have any family around, so as I said, it's really, really important to organize everything. And don't take me wrong. There've been times where it was a bit of a manic time when we had to drop everything because she was ill, and we had to readjust our diaries, etc. So, and that is it for me is a great cause of anxiety and stress. But and then in terms of being a mum, I try to read as much as possible. That's what I do, and so that's why I acquire information. So I kind of try to have some principles and guidances, so I know what resonate with me as and how I want to raise her, and when I'm at that level, I'm happy. This is as much as I can give her. I can see she's happy, and when things go wrong, I'm trying to be quite honest about why they went wrong, and what I can do differently next time. But I have to say, probably things were going to get, at least for me, will probably get worse when she's a teenager, because at the moment it's very physical rather than emotional, and
Yeah.
it is also emotional, but and it's I was thinking, speaking to another mum, it's sometimes for women, I think, is the mental workload rather than the on top of the physical. But because I have as I said, my husband is great support, so it's not really that aspect that I'm, but it's more like thinking about everything needs to be lined up, and I think for women that is the main challenge.
Yeah, it's constantly weighing on our minds, that there's very little break from that, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you're right, there will be different challenges throughout a child's life, that they sort of just change rather than go away, don't they?
Yeah, I'm already bracing myself for.
Got a little while to go, yeah. But you're clearly a planner. You're thinking in advance, which is probably a good thing. I guess we're all often we're our own kind of toughest critics in those scenarios, aren't we? But it sounds like you say, kind of doing the best possible job by reading up and planning and that kind of thing just kind of helps take that pressure off yourself a little bit.
And also trust yourself, because I was very I was very insecure at the beginning, like you would as a first time mother, and you don't know exactly what to do. And the more you go through that, the more you leave that sort of experience, the better you become, and then you understand that your child is actually thriving, so there is nothing to be worried about. It's like the first time she had a fever, I was completely beyond myself, and I was like, oh my God,
straight to
I was thinking of the worst is going to happen, and then you had to wait 3, 4, 5 times of this and go through it several times, and then now I've always said, okay, no, I think she's fine.
Get the car, grab the Calpol. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. You sort of you find your rhythm, I suppose. We've spoken a bit about what we can do to help ourselves, but shifting a little bit, it would be nice to talk about what the role that employers can play in all of this. And in many ways, I guess the support or lack of support, as it might be, from a company can make a huge difference in how well we're able to do both our roles. So what, in your experience, what role does an employer play in helping you to succeed both at work and at home, I suppose?
I think they play a huge role, and I can see the difference now that I'm in partners. They are a fully flexible company, and I have to say, I come from different organizations that were a little bit more old-fashioned in that respect, and where being around was a good thing, and working from home or asking for flexibility was frowned upon, frankly. And I remember how stressful it was to have to negotiate some time off when my daughter was ill, and you constantly say sorry. We shouldn't be sorry, because our children are unwell. And I remember when I came, when I joined Finn, and nobody was really checking, and I called HR and I said, listen, I really don't know the culture here. Do I have to tell my boss that I'm leaving a bit early on certain days to pick up my daughter? And she almost laughed at me, and she said, well, you are grown up. We trust you. You can do whatever you like, as long as you do your. And then it took me, I also spoke to other colleagues, and I said, how do you do things here? I just, the first few months, couple of months, I really tried to understand what the culture was, and they have a very strong set of values. So I knew that that was a direction of travel, but also, you want to know how they live and breathe them. And then loads of colleagues, female colleagues, said, "Oh, don't worry, they're great." And it was amazing. I still feel, I physically feel a sense of relief that I felt. It's almost like I had a massive, a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, really. It was a real physical relief, not just mental relief. And I thought, oh, now I can relax. Okay, nobody's, micromanaging me. Nobody's,
and that then allows you to then concentrate on doing what you do best.
Yeah.
You don't have to sort of worry about the other parts of your life because.
And I think sometimes the anxiety is generated by stupid things like, oh my God, what if I don't get the train on time? What if, there is a delay and I can't get to nursery on time? And then obviously it is also quite expensive because they charge you £1 for every minute you're late.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't really afford it.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. And I suppose, like you say, it's having just a supportive employer that allows you to kind of take those anxieties away, and you don't have to worry if you're not sort of, paying everything by the minute and trying to sort of toe the line all the time. It's
and now I'm free to worry about, how do I achieve the best? How do I get a new client instead of worrying about being at the train station on time, because I know that that's not a problem.
Not a huge deal. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And I hope employers kind of realize that they can make such a difference to their teams' lives by just a few sort of simple changes and sort of cultural shifts. But hopefully they're starting to realize that a little bit more now.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Finally, I just wanted to ask about how being a parent has impacted your approach to work, and because parenting can teach us so many different things, the qualities that we find in ourselves as parents. There are many great ones, and they can translate into the professional world, I suppose. Has being a parent shaped how you approach different challenges at work at all? Is it impacted how you are professionally?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. So in a way, I'm more focused, like we discussed, you can focus more and maybe make the most of your free time, your time at work. I think I'm more confident. That also comes with age, but it's also I think, I say that as a joke, but it is really one of the most difficult things I've ever done. Having like a 1-month-old baby and literally not knowing what to do, and I think, if I always tell myself, you'll figure that out, you'll figure out everything, and I know it sounds a bit it sounds a bit silly, but I think it's the reality. And then I probably would have laughed at somebody saying these things before I had a child, but now that I'm in that situation, I think, going through that experience is real.
Yeah, absolutely. You never truly get
it changes everything. And so in a way you think, I've been through that, I can get through other things.
Yeah, it's so true.
And probably I've become a little bit more understanding of the needs of others and a little bit more compassionate, and also, thinking that maybe something personal is going on in people's lives. So it's not just what when they turn up at work. There is also other stuff they take with them, and sometimes they can't, they can't really detach them from what's happening in their personal life. And then just be mindful that there are, it's not just who you are at work. You are many things in your life, and then try to be as compassionate as possible without being too judgmental. And then maybe also learned not to be so judgmental with myself, because I know that I made mistakes. I know that I will make mistakes, and are things that I would have done differently. But shouted up, losing my temper or shouting, and then the next day they happen, and we're all human, and I can do better next time.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's a great perspective to have. I think sometimes we spoke earlier before this, but often working parents can get overlooked for opportunities, and because they have this priority that will always come above work. Let's be honest, a child will always come above work. But hearing your take on all the things, all the great things that you're required to be as a parent can be just as much of an advantage at work, and it just reinforces my view that working parents are some of the best employees and team members out there because of all these great skills that you kind of have to pick up along the way. So it's very, very true. Carolina, thank you so much for talking with me today. We're rapidly running out of time, so I'll have to wrap up. But thank you for sharing those experiences. I think hopefully if everyone kind of shares this, then we can kind of all learn from each other. And I've certainly learned heaps from you today. So really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.